Hello and welcome to the Instituto Cervantes. We continue our cultural program on our YouTube channels in Manchester and Leeds, trying to reach all our audience while we are at home. Today we start a series where we present the links that Manchester and Spain have had with facts and characters like Enriqueta Rylands, José Castillejo, or in the case we present today, María Malibrán. María Malibrán was one of the most important opera voices of Spanish music in the 19th century. She had a special link with Manchester because it was in the Catedral where she performed her last concert. To tell us about her figure, we have today the conductor of the Michael Haydn Orchestra, Marco Bellasi, who has dedicated to research his biography and her music, to bring an annual concert to the Cathedral of Manchester to commemorate the voice of María Malibrán. Concert postponed this year by the COVID-19. To learn a little more about this Spanish woman and her music, please watch the video and enjoy with us. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
I'm Marco Bellasi. I have studied conducting in Milan, also violin in Milan, and and composition and singing. And then I had an idea later on, around 2018, to start my own orchestra. And this came to life in 2019. So this is an original song by María Malibrán that she composed in New York for a recital she did there. And it was very, very important because she was saying farewell to the New York people because she was going back to Europe after a failed first marriage with an entrepreneur from America, Malibrán, from who she took the surname Malibrán.
Waves of ocean, I go to my own native shores, yet this bosom will glow with devotion to the clime and the scenes it adores. Memory's shrine fondly lingers the joys that have twined their bright spell, and the heart that vibrates to these fingers sighs in sadness the tones of farewell. Farewell, farewell.
María Malibrán was the most important singer of her generation. We're talking about the beginning of the 19th century. The era of Rossini, of Donizetti, of Bellini, in other words, the great bel canto period of opera. These are operas that are performed every year, the operas of Rossini, the operas of Donizetti and Bellini. So it's the core repertoire of Italian opera. So wherever she went, she caused a storm of enthusiasm, of people that loved her, people that perhaps hated her, just like the stars of Hollywood today. And but what is important also to know that she wasn't only a normal star. She was exceptional because she was born in a musical family by Manuel Garcia, who was the greatest Spanish tenor, or the greatest tenor of that time. And he was the favorite tenor of Rossini. So this guy, Manuel Garcia, was a genius, but was also, like all geniuses, he was a little bit mad, but because he wasn't only a great singer, he wanted to compose operas he was a composer, and so they toured around the world with him, and then he would write his operas while they were touring, and then he would put on his operas. So they went to Mexico, all of the world, they toured. So that's how María Malibrán grew up. And this, I think, is very special because she wasn't only a singer, she was a musician in the core, you know. She grew up with bread and butter. Music was her bread and butter. You know? So absolutely, so María Malibrán is an icon, and that's why a lot of composers loved her. Not only the opera composers like Rossini, Donizetti, Bellini, who adored her, but also composers like Mendelssohn, who you would never think they would be attracted to María Malibrán, but they were absolutely like fascinated. It was like they went to see her once and they were addicted to her dramatic sense of drama on the stage. She was an actress as well as being a great singer. The importance of María Malibrán, this very particular voice, which goes very low and very high at the same time, as it stays in the roles that were written for her. Because of course, composers would, at that time, they would write for singers like a tailor would do a dress, you know, or a suit. You know, they would take the measurements of the voice and put this fantastic, all of her great talents into use in that role. So all of these great roles that are very difficult are difficult for a reason, because her voice was exceptional. Well, Manchester in that period was at the heights of its status because obviously the Industrial Revolution made it one of the richest cities in the world. Therefore, Manchester, together with Liverpool, started to organize very important music festivals, which would bring all of the stars of the music of that era together. And they would commission also very important works to composers. She was called to do a particular concert here. And she came, but unfortunately, just a couple of months prior to this festival, she fell from the horse. But her foot stayed tied to the horse while it was still galloping out of control. So this was very fatal in a way because she banged her head very badly and she injured herself very, very badly. But she was a woman of fire and she didn't want to give up the recital and the concert she had planned in Manchester. And she wanted to come anyway, against the doctor's advice. So she came, she was very ill, but she, at the night of the performance, she was incredible. Everyone was, you know, out of, you know, like, it was incredible. Her performance, apparently everyone was stood up, it was standing ovation, absolutely incredible. But after that performance, she fell ill again. And this time it was very bad. And she died in a Mosley Arms in Manchester, which is very close to the cathedral, which was the venue in which she performed the concert. When I read the story of Malibrán, I love reading about the singers, these important singers that, you know, really changed the world and changed the world of music. And I was reading her story and I'm saying, this woman was phenomenal. And we are lucky to be in the city where she gave her last recital. And what would it be like to do a program in the very place that she gave the last concert and in which she was temporarily buried? And I think that would have been very, very powerful. So I gathered in the program we did some pieces that she wrote, because she was a composer as well, like her father. And also I gathered some pieces that were written especially for her, like an aria by Mendelssohn. We had planned to do this concert on the 15th of May to do it again, because it was so special. It felt so special the first time that we did it. It was really a fantastic concert and we wanted to do it again. So we had already planned, we booked the cathedral once again, the very place the special place where we wanted it to be done. Everything was ready, but unfortunately we were caught in this terrible situation of the coronavirus, which is very dramatic for all the world and has caused a lot of pain and still causing pain. So unfortunately the concert needed to be postponed and cancelled for the time being. But we would really like in the future to bring it back. And there are other pieces also that would be fantastic. So it would be very nice to do it again, yes. So the video is taking you in for 5 or 6 minutes in this concert and so you start by hearing the violin concerto in E minor by Mendelssohn, which is such a fantastic piece. But then you will hear a little bit, just a little tasters, appetizers of all the pieces that we performed. So you will hear some of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto, which we played with an original Stradivari violin from Manchester that is kept in the Royal Northern College of Music archives. So it was very beautiful to have that played by our leader Magdalena Riedel from Austria, and she'll be also giving some speech about the violin, how special it is, and it's a national treasure and a local treasure for Manchester, this Stradivari violin. And then we will be talking about Michael Haydn, of course. He's our signature composer, and we'll have Ben Goldscheider, who has recently gone into the final of the BBC Young Musician of the Year competition for the Winds, and he's a fantastic horn player. He's going to speak a little bit about the horn concerto by Michael Haydn. And then we'll talk about María Malibrán and Infelice, especially this beautiful aria that Mendelssohn wrote for her with a violin, which is a very special piece. And and then we'll wrap it up again with the violin concerto by Mendelssohn in E minor. Coming together of many creeds of mine, credo we say in Italian, beliefs as an artist.
The Stradivarius is the jewel in the crown of the Orient-Siem's historical instrument collection.
It's a piccolo violin by Stradivari, built in the year 1660, which is 25 years before Bach was even born, so it lived through the making of all Brandenburg concertos.
It's a slightly smaller violin, and it's tuned a third higher, and we're going to hear it in Bach's first Brandenburg concerto, which has a big solo part.
Instrument that has lived through the times Bach lived, so also in this beautiful venue, Manchester Cathedral, it's just I'm very, very much looking forward.
I'm very pleased that some of our instruments are actually working instruments. They're not just museum pieces that people can go and look at. Sometimes they come out of their cases and they get played, and that's what musical instruments are for in the end, aren't they?
It's very interesting. This concerto is very rarely performed. I have done it once before, which I think is actually rare. Mostly horn players, they haven't played this piece. But I think it's very beautiful. It's extremely different from Joseph Haydn's concerto.
In recent discoveries by musicologists, they've discovered that all of the composers Mozart copied, Michael Haydn was the one who he copied most. So it must be a very important composer to Mozart, and I think if he's relevant to Mozart, he needs to be relevant to us as well.
It starts with a slow movement, which is almost unheard of. No other horn concerto that I can think off the top of my head starts with a slow movement. It's extremely lyrical. Whereas the Joseph Haydn trio starts with a very fast allegro in two, and it's very triadic and the opposite of lyrical, I have to say.
That is my first creed about this concert, to take out even more the name of Michael Haydn. Second creed is to bring a Manchester legacy to the people of Manchester, a very, very great tradition of music, of art, of culture, and in this city many, many important events happened. For example, the death of María Malibrán, perhaps the greatest opera singer of the 19th century. She died after performance in this cathedral at the age of 28. She was a composer, and we are delighted to remember her with some pieces that she wrote, along with some pieces that she sang, and some pieces that were dedicated to her by composers such as Mendelssohn.
It's really a special connection between these two pieces. Some parts from the aria really are identical to the main themes in the violin concerto. The theme soprano sings, it's in the major key, and then in the concerto, of course, it's minor in the beginning and molto appassionato in the piano, and there's this quiet restlessness. So you never know if Mendelssohn was so deeply affected by María Malibrán's death.
I think one of the exciting things about this concert is that we've actually got the centre place, because we are giving a concert in the very building in which Malibrán gave her last concert and where her funeral took place.
This very, very beloved piece perhaps bears some remembrance of her, because it was written after her death, and in a way it connects to the aria Infelice he wrote to her. So we hint you this possible connection, and we leave for you the rest. Hope you enjoy.